This podcast will talk you through the ups and downs in the entertainment industry.
Each and every one of you has a talent, but it's a tough business. People gonna tell you, get a real job.
By introducing you to sustainable, moldable methods in a crazy, cutthroat world.
Let us harness our willpower and take real action.
Don't let it get you down.
Join me, brothers and sisters, on a journey through trials and tribulations.
Unfake it till you make it.
Welcome to another episode of the Unfake It Till You Make It podcast. I'm your host, Tony Suriano, and these last 3 weeks have been extremely positively busy. As my uncle Jim used to put it, I've been busier than a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. There will be no guest in this episode, but I have a few things I've learned that I'd like to share with you, specifically in the film industry, and even more specifically, on producing and editing. I want to share them because they can save time, they can save money, and they can save a lot of stress. Before I dive any deeper, I did want to thank the thoughtful executive producer, Joel Marsden, for this last shoot, and the entire cast and crew for bringing this to fruition. And a special thank you to Michael Piscasio, who connected us to our talented 360 spin rig master, Matt Blum. Thank you, Matt, for being so enthusiastic about the shoot. And our lighting supplier, Richard Amadril at Lumines, www.luminescorp.com. That'll be in the show notes. Richard, it was great seeing you on set. Thank you for helping make sure all the lights were functioning properly. These lights that we use, guys, were extremely lightweight for the power. And when you were shooting at 900 frames per second as we were, you need a lot of light. They worked perfect, and we could not have done this shoot without you guys. So thanks. And now on with the show. I hope you find this episode helpful and as a reminder on how important efficiency, effectiveness, and protecting yourself in the entertainment industry is. Have you ever heard of a camera support device that spins 360 degrees around a subject? Well, some call it a 360 spin rig, and it is a heart-stopping device. The version we rented was probably the most dynamic and top of the line out there. My new friend Matt Blum, he constructed and perfected this beautiful masterpiece. I recently co-produced and directed a shoot involving this 360 spin rig, a high-speed camera called the Phantom Flex that we did shoot at 900 frames a second, and 10 amazing performers from parkour experts to ballet dancers to kickboxers to sword fighters. It was incredible. At the shoot, they did their thing while we had props flying in the air like colored powder, flower petals, confetti, glittered stars, and the camera circled them beautifully, capturing everything. The plan is to have it stitched together seamlessly and have a beautiful display of performance art, if you will. Did I mention this rig had to be drilled to the studio floor? Which brings me to another special thank you to Arne, the studio owner that allowed us. He was the only studio owner that allowed us to drill 6 10-inch holes into his floor to install this 360 spin rig safely. I put his website in the show notes. His place is called Orange County Production Studios. It was a pretty huge Hollywood-style shoot, but here was the really big thing. We had to deal with a really small budget. If you know anything about producing in the film industry or not, you probably understand what happens when you try to get the best for little. Usually everything fails, or you get extremely lucky. We had a bit of both. My producing partner, Joey Chu, and I had a hell of a time producing this thing. At first, it really seemed, with what we wanted and what the client wanted, that she and I would not make a dime in this shoot because we needed a veteran Hollywood crew, the specialized equipment, and all the restrictions all around. I mean, mainly the budget, that's why. But we accepted the project anyway for a few reasons. It was something we never produced before, and it sounded awesome. Number 2, we need funds to funnel into our company for various reasons. And 3, it was a challenge, which I think is always a chance to grow. Okay, the mistakes to avoid. First thing, during pre-production, I did not schedule a meeting with our director of photography, our gaffer, and myself. Things were crazy and busy, and things were extra busy with our director of photography. So we thought, it'd be fine to stick to a couple phone calls and just email correspondence the rest of the way. I mean, after all, I've worked with him before. This was a bad idea, especially for a shoot with a small budget, because to save costs, we rented individual items instead of full grip packages or standard grip and electric packages. So we risked not having standard gear on set. Also, the gaffer and director of photography didn't know each other, so it would have been nice for them to have gained rapport before the shoot day so they're ready to go with a plan. It would have been best to have received a list of essentials right then and there in an in-person meeting so we could not be waiting around to receive emails sporadically. Because of the lack of communication, or shall I say, incomplete answers and late responses to our questions, we ran into some problems as far as what electrical items to rent and what the film studio already had. With the 360 spin rig device, it uses so much power, and the new lights that we used, we knew nothing about until a couple days before the shoot. So Joey and I felt lost in the dark. We called the studio several times ourselves and basically tried to figure it out based on the little info we had. In the end, it seems the best thing to have done would be to have that in-person meeting and then let the gaffer talk to the studio and get back to us with a list of needs, and then we would hunt to rent them. But again, since we were asking for flexibility and gathering new contacts in the low budget, for some reason we only received the lighting supplier's contact info only days before the shoot. So we couldn't give the gaffer any lighting information, and he couldn't do diligence like he offered to do. During the pre-production of the shoot, I was directing and editing on other shoots 40 plus hours a week. So I was going back and forth between Joey and the client and this budget ideas we had, the creative concepts, reaching out to cast and crew. And on top of this, I was still in the midst of sponsoring someone special coming to the USA for the first time. I was getting overwhelmed, I must admit. So I tried to put all my things to practice. I continued to journal each morning and night. I did my best to meditate a little in the morning, staying active. I only took relevant calls and responded to relevant emails. So I was gone missing for a couple weeks. But the real way I was able to accomplish this project on my end was the powerful efforts of my producing partner, Joey Chu, who I actually met by chance on an airplane interview earlier this year. You can hear that interview on episode 3 of the podcast. Thank you, Joey. So here's my thought on producing in an indie world if you're new to it, or if you just get stressed out too much. Find an awesome producing partner and someone that has enthusiasm and love for filmmaking or whatever part of the entertainment industry you're in. And that could mean you guys split the efforts 50-50, or it could mean you do 1/3, they do 2/3. It's good to just distribute the weight because it makes all the difference. How do you find a producing partner? It took me years. I always knew I should have one. I always wanted one. I wanted to partner up with someone that loved this as much as I do, that could push, make the efforts, but no one could make it. No one could stay on board. You know, people talk, they talk, but anyway, what I did is I learned to simply just be open to talking to everybody. Wherever I am, I could be open to talking with them. You never know who's there, who's going to click with you. So this is the way. I used to be closed off and too worried about how I would come off or whether I would hate this new person and how difficult it would be to reject them in their faces. So I just didn't bother. But you should bother if you're interested in distributing the weight and having an amazing time, making the shoot better, making your project better, whatever it is. Oh, and a few last things about this shoot. We lost some money because of lack of communication on our side. We had to get a forklift for the shoot, and we found out 3 days before shoot day, and we needed it for this 360 spin rig. So we were kind of freaking out because we were thinking, oh, that's going to be an extra $1,200 because we need it for 2 days. But luckily, the studio owner was awesome, and he said, oh, his friend has one, but we talked to them over the phone, and we thought, he said, my friend will let you use it for free. So we didn't follow up in an email saying, just to be clear, we understand you have a forklift and it's free. We really appreciate that. Can you confirm that it'll be available? That's what we should have done. So we lost some money there. It wasn't quite $1,200, but it added, it subtracted to what we didn't expect. Then there was another thing. This is important. So we rented like one of the stages in the studios. And in that stage, there was a lot of lights, like stage lighting that were up there. Maybe 5 Kino flows. And they're worth some good money. They're up there. And the night before, somewhat of a prep day, I told the owner, we do not need those. Like, I want those down because we have our own lights. We need to rig up. So he said, that's fine. It only takes 15 minutes. But he kind of urged me to have my guys do it. That was the mistake. Don't have your guys move other studio people's lights unless you're renting them. Because if we were renting them, of course, yeah, we'll move them. And if we accidentally bump them, hey, that's our fault. But the next day came and we got a scissor lift up there and we moved some of them. The DP climbed up on the ladder and he was loading them down faster than I've ever seen. And everything was fine. It was okay. But then at the end of the day, we only had one scissor lift certified operator. Okay, that was our gaffer. And the owner, he said, we only want whoever's certified to operate the scissor lift. So our gaffer operated it all day. But at the end, we had a couple grips that they said they know how to use it. And the owner knew they were not certified. But he said, hey, if you guys want to go up and move the lights, that's fine. You know how to use it, right? And they said, oh, sure, okay. And they lifted up. They were putting the lights back, actually. So what happened was one of the grips accidentally went up with the scissor lift instead of down, and it hit one of these Kinoflow lights, and it damaged it. On one end, it seems like, hey, it's his fault because he said he didn't want anyone not certified, and he's the one that asked. He actually said, hey, you can go up there. Can you go up there with the scissor lift? He even told me that. So I thought first, oh, it's his fault. Like, I shouldn't pay for this. But the thing is, our guys were moving his lights no matter what. So as a set manager or a director in my case, I should have just said, hey guys, don't move anything that's not our equipment. And if I would have said that, people agreed, we would not have this problem. So now, anyway, we ended up having to pay for the fixing fee. It wasn't so much, but again, that with the forklift fee plus some other additional studio fees, we ended up spending an extra, I think it was $1,200 or $1,300 extra that we didn't include. And guess where that comes out of? Oh, the producer's cut. That's where it comes out of. So I just wanted to mention that it was a honest mistake because we had so much going on. But when you have so much going on, I think you have to be more focused at those things, like the contract and like what exactly is happening on shoot day as far as the studio's gear. What can we use? And what do we need? So moving on now, just a little bit to tech talk about post-production efficiency. If you don't know about offline editing, sometimes called proxy editing, oh, you must. I never needed to use this editing technique until recently because most of my projects, I either used a really fast computer or the footage wasn't 4K and my laptop was fine. But now with these nothing but 4K projects, offline editing is the way to go. This is perfect when your computer is not fast enough or the footage is just too heavy. And this is the solution. If you're an editor, you will appreciate this. Or if you're looking to boost up your workflow or you're hiring editors and you want to make sure everything's the fastest it can be, you will love this. I personally edit on Adobe Premiere, but this applies to most professional editing softwares. And I found a great short tutorial link on YouTube, and I'll leave it in the show notes to give you a better understanding and practical understanding of this technique. But you can also go to YouTube and just type in offline editing or proxy editing and then enter the editing software you use. Good stuff should come up. So check it out. This will save you a lot of time. I hope you can be unfrustrated while editing because who wants to be frustrated when editing? You want to be fun. You want to have fun. You want to get creative. And working with this new client that I am, we had these slow computers they just don't support the 4K footage that we've been shooting at. So I've been pissed off, and all the stuttering I've had with playback, I finally forced myself to figure out the mastery of offline editing. It has helped me immensely, and I hope it helps you too. And that is all for this episode. Until next time, thank you for listening. Just a reminder, guys, like every episode, most things we mention by name will be in the show notes section on our website, unfakeittillymakeit.com. And they should also be in the iTunes or other podcast notes section as well, with easy links to find them. If you like the show, please show your support and leave a review, make my day, and let me know what you like best.
Thank you for listening to the Unfake It Till You Make It podcast. For detailed sources and show notes for this episode, visit www.unfakeittillyoumakeit.com. Until next time, get up, get going, and get creative.